Batman versus his greatest challenge ever. Today we're going to explore the Elseworlds story known as The Doom That Came to Gotham. Here is Comicstorian, and I read audio dramas of your favorite comic books. I cut down on the panels and the B-plots, and I give you the core of the story. This allows you to see what books are out there and what you want to add to your collection by visiting your local comic book store. Or you can visit our sponsor Shortboxed to find a way to build that impressive collection that your friends will envy. Also, if you enjoy audio dramas of creepy things, check out Tales from the Mind, our other channel where we actually write the stories and then bring you a weekly horror story over there. Now let's get into The Doom That Came to Gotham. Cape Victoria, 1928. The boat pushes past the icy shore, allowing the crew to disembark. They have finally found the Cobblepot Expedition ship, the head of the search party stopping outside the icebound wreck. Well, he calls to his young wards. One of them pops over the side, shaking his head. It's bad. Lots of bodies. Though he isn't sure if it's the entire crew. Boys, I want an exact count by the time I get back. I'm gonna go have a look around. Bruce calls to them. Dick Grayson looks down into the snow, discovering a worn journal trapped in the ice. He picks it up, thumbing through the personal journal of Professor Oswald Cobblepot. Another bad night. The men are on edge. The dogs will not leave the ship. Dick begins to read, and he goes through several days as Cobblepot records the worsening conditions. But his prose grows shorter. What is in the ice? How does it know my name? Dick reads the questions. Meanwhile, Bruce now looks up on a nearby hill, seeing a short, naked man walking along the ridge. Cobblepot, is that you? He shouts, but the man turns away. Walk, he calls, as he waddles off. And Bruce follows him into a nearby cave, but loses the man in the darkness. A faint tapping noise can be heard deeper in the cave, and he pushes forward, calling for Cobblepot. No, he's gone now. He is all penguin at last. A voice calls out, and Bruce steps into the large chamber, discovering a man chipping away at the ice. Something ancient and vast trapped on the other side. I was Grendon, but now I am chosen by him to be his messenger to the world. Greatly favored am I, don't you think? The man says, not bothering to even look at Bruce. Bruce walks forward gently. Right, you're gonna have to come with me. Don't make me get rough, he says, and a hissing noise escapes the shadows, and strange-eyed penguins launch themselves at Bruce. He whirls around, throwing them off, drawing his .45, firing twice into the snow. The birds cry shrilly, waddling off into the darkness. Those were awful-looking penguins, Bruce whispers, turning back to the stranger, his eyes widening as the man rushes at him with his pickaxe. That's enough of you, Bruce says with his pistol as he whips the man across the face, dropping him. He looks up at the icy wall, seeing a green tentacle gently shifting. What is that? What's going on here? Bruce ponders, quickly radioing back to the ship, letting Tim know that he's going to need some explosives that they brought along. It takes short work to rig up the cave to detonate, trapping whatever that is hidden within the ice beneath the mountain. What's in the cave, sir? Jason asks, and Bruce shakes his head. I don't know. I've never seen anything like it. It couldn't be alive in all that ice, but better safe than sorry, he tells his ward. But as Bruce is watching where the cave once was, a voice vibrates in his mind. The thing is coming. It growls, but no one hears the voice, and Bruce orders them all back to the ship. As the group heads back to their ship, they are watched by Oswald Cobblepot, naked as the day that he was born, but unaffected by the cold. He watches them, surrounded by penguins. He is home now. Back aboard the ship, Bruce is ordering the captain to head back home, deciding that it is finally time for him to return to Gotham City. He heads below the deck, opening the apartment doors to be hit by an awful smell. Boys, what stinks down here? He asks his wards. And Dick turns away from his work, explaining that once the stranger had begun to thaw, he had begun to spoil. Blood and tissue samples prove it. He's dead. Been dead for weeks, Dick says to him. And Jason looks up from the diving suit that he is modifying. I'm rigging up a refrigerated suit for him. In the meantime, We locked him in the meat freezer, he says, motioning to the nearby door, where the stranger is watching them. Bruce heads into his quarters, looking at his bat suit, realizing that the thing that he has been waiting 20 years for has finally begun. Meanwhile, the stranger sits in the freezer, speaking to the voices that echo in his mind. Master, I thought I had failed, but now I feel your gift cold in my belly, and this ship is taking us where we want to go. Gotham City, he whispers. A little while later, that ship does arrive in Gotham Harbor, with Bruce standing on the bow, looking up at the buildings of his city, remembering 20 years ago, when his parents were stabbed. His father was pointing out all the places that the Waynes had helped build, and then a stranger came up after them with a knife, and his father went down first. You cursed us all! We're better off dead, that's the truth of it! The deranged man had shouted. His mother turned to Bruce, screaming for him to run as the knife found her flesh. Bruce had run to the nearby church, charging up the stairs of the belfry, bats screeching as their daytime sleep was disturbed. The sound of the church bell ringing brings Bruce back to the present, and the ship is quickly offloaded with Bruce looking up at Jason. No one comes on board unless you hear from me, you understand? He says, explaining that Jason also needs to watch over their refrigerated guest. I'll teach him some songs, Jason says with a nod, and the rest of them pile into the car, with Alfred setting out through the city towards Wayne Manor. They arrive at the manor shortly, unpacking and preparing to have the home air out. But it's Tim who discovers their guest. Sir, someone's here ahead of us, he shouts, pointing to the corpse that has been bound to the chair in the living room, a portrait of Thomas and Martha Wayne slashed above him. Dick moves forward, checking the body and discovering that it has been dead for several hours. No wallet, no papers. You recognize him? He asks Bruce, who shakes his head, ordering his ward to fetch the scope so that he can investigate the corpse. He finds evidence on the man's skin, under his fingernails, noting that the corpse almost has a reptilian smell about him. Interesting. What's your name? Bruce whispers as he leans close to it. Its lips gently move, and a name escapes its mouth. Langstrom. It whispers as fire suddenly erupts from the fireplace, forcing everyone to jump back. And when the flames die down, a man stands in the room. Bruce Wayne. Speak with them for a while. He says. Bruce is shocked, demanding to know how the man has entered his home. What I have to say is for you alone. Follow me, the man says, walking out of the room. Bruce follows him into the hallway, demanding answers, but he stops as the man steps in front of a mirror, his reflection almost demonic. My name is Blood. You do not want to know me or what I am. Suffice to say, what is invisible is most visible to me. Your homecoming has finally set certain events into motion, he says, the next words becoming more demonic, the reflection speaking. To prevail this, Bruce Wayne must die, through death become himself. Beware dust comes alive again. To save Gotham City, you must cut out his heart. He says, and with the last bit of information, Blood has become a demon before Bruce's eyes. He leaps through the nearby window, fire spewing from his mouth as he disappears. Bruce stands alone in the chamber. Damn, he whispers, falling back into his father's old chair as Alfred enters the room, asking if they should put Langstrom down in the cave beneath the manor. The next day, Bruce, Dick, and Tim go and visit an old family friend, Oliver Queen. Been a long time, Bruce. In fact, I believe the last time that you were here, we were both about young Mr. Tim's age, Oliver says with a smile, settling back in his chair, asking what finally brought Bruce back to Gotham. Tim doesn't like the question, growing angry with Oliver, but Bruce silences him, pointing out that he also thought that Oliver was dead. Oliver nods, motioning to the stuffed gorilla nearby, the one that had nearly killed him. But I knew I wouldn't die in some filthy jungle. I'll die here, in Gotham, like you, Bruce, he says as he takes a puff of his pipe. Bruce smiles, drinking from his cup, asking Oliver for all of the news of Gotham. Bruce steers the conversation to that of Dr. Kirk Langstrom, who Oliver explains is known as the Batman. He was one of us, old family, wealth, power. He had a position at the university but gave it all up to do some kind of private bat research. Lives somewhere downtown. he explains. Evening begins to fall, so Bruce asks if they can spend the night. Give Alfred time to air out the manor. Oliver agrees, showing them to their rooms, and it is later that Tim peeks his head into Bruce's chambers. But of course, he finds it empty. A gentle breeze blowing the curtains at an open window. Downtown, Batman moves through the night, leaping off the rooftops of Gotham City, his mind pondering over his meeting with Oliver, believing that the man knows more about what is coming than he is letting on. He finally arrives at Langstrom's apartment, eager to discover how the man died and why someone left the corpse in the Wayne Manor. He looks at the small apartment, noting the lights are on. Inside, the dirty cops continue to sift through the professor's things, a detective ordering his men to find whatever valuables they can before the rest of the cops arrive. "Gentlemen," Bruce growls from the window, and the cops turn in surprise at the strangely dressed man. "The mad scientist lunatic turned himself into a giant bat!" one of the cops shouts, reaching for his gun, but Batman tosses a smoke bomb, filling the room with a greenish smoke that quickly knocks all of them unconscious. He quickly moves through the apartment searching for clues, eventually finding a secret spot where Langstrom managed to hide some papers. It's the final statement of Kirk Langstrom. Bruce reads quietly, but the door opens, revealing more police officers. They don't even hesitate. They raise their weapons, opening fire, rounds ripping through the air as Batman dashes for the window, leaping out into the night air. He finds himself a quiet rooftop, where he pulls out a flashlight and he begins to read. The papers seem to be the rambling of a madman, with Langstrom explaining that he can understand the language of bats, that they warn him of a growing horror within the city, on the very doorstep of their reality. When the door yawns wide, it will rise out the guts of the city, and it will be the end, Bruce reads. But Langstrom concludes that the door is still holding, but can be opened by a book known as the Testament of Ghoul. Langstrom has tried to steal the book, meaning to destroy it, but he was unsuccessful. The bats tell me of a mystery woman that has come looking for the book. She must never be allowed to find it, Bruce reads, with the last line of the note seemingly as if it's talking to Bruce directly. "Perhaps you will have the strength to do what I could not. Anyway, I did my best," it says. Bruce continues to move through the night, making his way towards Gotham University, crouched atop a telephone line. He taps into the line, eager to learn more of the Testament of Ghoul. A call is coming through as he continues to watch the head professor's office. The professor answering the phone quickly. "The Testament of Ghoul, Professor. Do you have it?" a female voice asks, anger filling the professor's voice. "What? No! Who is this? There's no such book, and don't call here again, it's a myth!" he shouts before hanging up. Batman shakes his head, knowing the professor is lying. The professor crosses his office, hitting a hidden latch on his bookshelf to reveal a secret compartment. The professor's eyes widen as he stares at the Testament of Ghoul. "Damn you, Langstrom. You want me to destroy the thing?" "Don't you think I would if I could?" he whispers, sitting back in his desk. He prepares himself a drink. "If I cannot destroy it, then perhaps I will kill myself," he whispers, and a voice calls to him from the shadows. "No, Professor," Talia al Ghul says. The professor is shocked, falling from his chair, fear gripping his body as she turns to him, a bottle in her hand that she uncorks. "No!" the professor screams. Batman turns his head, leaping off of the telephone pole and heading towards the professor's office. He is watched by Blood, who stands in the shadows, questioning if now is when he is meant to intervene, or is it too early? "Yes, my sacrifice is called. Let it be done," he says as he begins to move through the night. In Manfred's office, Talia looks down at the stunned professor. "Do not die yet. I sense trouble is close at hand and I must make use of you," she says to him, opening the bottle fully, allowing a strange lizard to crawl out. It drops to the floor, slithering inside of Manfred's ear. "Someone is here," Talia says simply, turning quietly as the window shatters behind her, Batman leaping into the room. "What is this? A man in a costume? To what purpose?" she asks, seemingly unimpressed. "Datia, break this fool to pieces," Talia says, heading for the door, the secret book clutched in her hands. Professor Manfred's body rises from the floor, his skin now burning, his voice overtaken by a strange demonic lizard. But the office door explodes inward, revealing Blood in his demonic form. "No! Leave the human being! You crave battle! Fight me!" Etrigan shouts, leaping forward, kicking Deata and knocking the Batman free of his grasp. The flames spiral around the room as the two demonic forces lock in battle. Bruce Wayne, be gone from here. Recover the book if you can. When all is done, if you live, you may see me again in all my glory, Etrigan shouts. Bruce hesitates for a mere moment before turning and giving chase to Talia. He drops in front of her outside. Madame, I must ask that you give the book to me. Believe me, I will shoot you, he says, raising his .45. But Talia smiles slightly. You'll be surprised to learn what little effect your weapon will have on me, and I assure you that it will have no effect on my companion, she says, and from the shadows, a great beast steps out behind Talia, its lizard-like face peering at Batman. Son of a... Batman hisses, shifting his aim and opening fire, 3 rounds exploding from the gun. But the bullets have no effect on the monster as it charges forward, bellowing as it lashes out, knocking him to the ground, moving in for the kill. But Talia stops. Enough! Do not kill him! I've changed my mind! Come, now! She snaps and the monster picks up Batman, bringing him along. The strange trio opening a grate into the sewer, dropping Batman down into a boat with Talia's attendants. This strangely dressed man is of interest to me, so treat him well, Talia tells the woman, and the boat pulls away with the monster left behind. Creature, you have your own task to perform. Go and be merciless to anyone who opposes you. For he who waits revels in blood, she calls to the creature. Meanwhile, in Gotham Harbor, Bruce Wayne's boat has been overtaken by ice. The waters around it are beginning to freeze. There's something you don't see every day, someone on the dock says, staring alongside the gathered crowds. Amongst the gathered crowd is Harvey Dent and James Gordon, discussing how Bruce Wayne has returned to town, but they're interrupted as Oliver Queen's car pulls up with a honk. Well, look who it is. Useless millionaire Oliver Queen. You haven't by any chance got Bruce Wayne in there? Gordon asks, but only Tim and Dick get out of the car, with Dick wielding his lever-action rifle. He begins to move towards the boats, but Gordon tries to stop him. Excuse me, but I've got to get on board that boat, Dick says, and Gordon again tries to stop him, stating that he should send some of his officers. No, sir. You know how Mr. Wayne values his privacy, Dick says as he pushes off of the docks, unaware that something is lurking beneath the waves of the harbor. Dick arrives on the icy boat, quickly searching the ship while calling for Jason. He finds his former friend frozen to death below deck. At least it was quick for him, Mr. Freeze calls. Dick whirls, bringing up the rifle, but the deck explodes beneath his feet, a monstrous creature raising up. Dick aims his rifle, firing again and again, the shots echoing across the bay. Damn kids! Should have waited for the proper police action, Gordon says as the police trawler makes its way out to the boat. The police discover the frozen Jason and the murdered Dick aboard the ship, but no other passengers, so Tim pushes his way past the police, his eyes widening as he sees his dead friends. Son, you're gonna have to tell us where Mr. Wayne is, right now, Gordon tells him. But Tim shakes his head, explaining that the last time that he saw him was when he went out the window at Oliver Queen's house. Beneath the city, Batman finally comes to his senses. His muscles stiffen as he begins to move, his hands cuffed to a pipe over his head. Damn. A dead lunatic and an evil book. A pair of demons, a giant lizard. What next? He whispers in the darkness, turning his head to see Talia knelt on the ground, the book opening up next to the altar, a sigil scrawled on the ground. Candles burning around her as she chants. Lady, what are you doing? Batman snaps, and Talia stops her chanting, finally looking at the chained Batman. Preparing to restore life to the ashes of my father, she tells him. Yeah, well, don't do it and unchain me right now, Batman tells her. She gets up, crossing the room, a finger tracing down Batman's chest. I would like to let you live. I marked you for death, but I've changed my mind. There's something about you, she says softly, and that's when she realizes Batman knows what is coming. He's seen it. She turns away. It will be for my father to decide, she says with a wave of her hand. Who are you? Batman demands, and she turns back to him, explaining that she is the daughter of Ra's al Ghul, who once went into the desert to discover a long-lost city where others feared to go. Ra's found the remains of a pre-human serpent man and used magic to uncover their secrets, writing it all down in this book. He returned to the world, but something followed him and he was murdered by unseen claws, his body burned to ashes. Talia inherited the book, using its power to capture a Jinn and cheat death. She was resurrected after 100 years, intent on bringing her father back from the beyond. The book was stolen, and I've searched for it ever since, she tells him. Fire suddenly fills the room as the Jinn appears, holding his bottle. Talia understands that her slave defeated the demon and trapped him. Batman looks at the bottle, aware that the demon Etrigan is watching him from within. Give me the bottle and go. Go back to the hell that spawned you, Talia orders, and in the glowing sigil, the Jinn disappears. Batman tries to stop her once again, but she isn't listening, throwing the urn of Ra's al Ghul onto the floor, shattering it. It disappears into the flames, replaced by a thin man who rises. Daughter, I am well served by thee. Ra's growls as he rises once more, turning to Batman, but Talia begs her father to let him live. She likes you, stranger. Tell me, can you live as a slave? Ra's asks, but Batman stands, having picked the lock on his cuffs. No, he growls, and Ra's nods, already knowing the answer. He raises his hand, casting a spell that draws all of the nearby reptiles to their location. The creatures hiss as they attack Batman. We cut to days later. Gotham City is now overcome by the plague. Reptiles pouring out of every crevice, overwhelming the city. Some believe it to be the end of times. Families sit around the radio listening to the mayoral candidate, Harvey Dent, promise that he will do something about the plague if he is elected to office. This is yet another scar on the face of our proud, beautiful city. Well, I say enough. No more. Time to look to the future, he says, flipping his coin in the air, holding up the pure side. The next day is the election, with Alfred listening from Wayne Manor, the body of Langstrom still kept in the basement, Oliver and Tim listening from Queen's home as Dent is declared the winner. Beneath the city, Ra's al Ghul has set up a court within the sewers, knowing that he must open the door for his great master, the evil that came to this planet millions and millions of years ago. You must give me the key, he says to the bowing Mr. Freeze. The refrigerated man looks up. But I told you, my lord, I have no key, he says, but Ra's explains that Yib Nogaroth is the son of their great god, that he brought the man back from the dead, spoke within his mind, planted his seed within him, to give to me, he says, motioning to the monster's servant. The lizard creature steps forward, reaching out with his claws, slashing through the man's Freeze suit. Freeze begins to melt immediately, his body dripping away, a puddle forming beneath him, and Ra's steps forward with the plant, placing it on the floor, allowing the water to soak it up. Iosotha, darkness out of time. Bless this thing to your holy purpose. Make it a new vessel to your gift, the agent of your delivery, he says as the weed begins to grow and morph, taking on an almost human-like shape. The radio clicks on, declaring Harvey Dent is the new mayor. Iosotha has chosen this path. Now fit this key to the door and he will come, he declares. The plant creature turns, walking out of the room, its thoughts settling on Harvey Dent. Meanwhile, on the city streets, a manhole cover is pushed aside as Batman pulls himself free of the darkness below, his body weakened by his ordeal. He limps along, collapsing outside of the church, and he looks up as the bell tolls. Memories of rushing inside as a child, finding a body hanging from the rafters, and it spoke to him. This way, Bruce Wayne. This way, Bruce. The thing is coming, the body said. The bats lifted him into the air, and he screamed as they carried him out the window. Look and see the shape of the thing. It's coming. It will destroy the world, and the only thing that can stop it is you, the voice said. Bruce didn't want to, but he looked down, and the monster glowed in the streets of Gotham, its great tentacles reaching from the earth. As it split open, it pulsated, a hungry maw opened, and it reached. Bruce awoke inside of the church, unharmed and confused. He stared at the boarded-up church, the memories still echoing in his mind, long since locked away in a trauma-infected brain. I was alive, but am I now just Batman? He says to himself. Another day passes and the plague of reptiles has ended. The city praises Harvey Dent, who leaves his home that morning to begin his work as the mayor. He nods to his driver, the two exchanging pleasantries. "Excuse me, gentlemen," a red-headed woman says as she walks up. She shakes Harvey's hand, congratulating him on becoming the mayor. He thanks her, and she keeps walking. He watches as she walks away, his hand gently scratching the spot that she touched him. Across town, Tim Drake has awoken in Oliver Queen's apartment. He walks through the vast home, calling for Oliver. He finds him kneeling before an altar in the chapel, dressed in a knight's garb, holding a longbow. "What the heck is this?" Tim whispers, and he walks up, interrupting Queen's prayers. "Is it morning already? I was preparing myself for battle," Queen informs him, reaching into the altar and pulling out a box that holds 3 holy arrows. He explains to Tim that an ancient evil is coming to the city, and that these are the only weapons that can defeat it. "I don't know what form it'll take, but it's coming for me," he says when Tim questions him. He studies the arrowheads, explaining to Tim that the monster is drawn to him because of his father's sins, a crime committed by him and others all those years ago. It is coming now, and whatever its shape, I know it when I'll see it. Outside, the redhead stops at Queen's home, reaching out her hand, placing it against the wall. Her skin disappears as she becomes a plant once more, her vines snaking their way up the wall into the windows above. The window crashes inward, forcing Oliver to turn in surprise. "You are not the one!" the monster hisses from a mouth unseen. The vines snake out, wrapping around Oliver's neck, pulling him into the air, and with a sharp twist, it breaks his neck, dropping him to the floor. Tim rushes to the wall, pulling out a sword from its place, whirling it back on the monster. "All right, you want some of this? I'll give it to you!" he shouts, but the vine snuck out, ripping the blade out of his hands. They wrap around him, beginning to strangle him. "Enough! Leave the boy alone!" Batman shouts as he leaps through the window, pulling out a burning log from the fire, whirling around with a torch, driving it into the plant creature. "Face me, you damned thing! Deal with me!" he snaps, and the monster dies before their eyes, releasing Tim from its grasp. Tim is shocked to see Bruce, believing that he had died. "I should have. Instead, I am whatever I am now." Bruce explains to Tim that he has remembered that he was chosen to fight whatever is coming, and that he has waited and trained for 20 years. "I think I'm turning into what I need to be," he says, holding up his hand, his glove turned, revealing the graying flesh beneath. Tim reaches down, picking up the arrows that Oliver dropped, explaining what the archer told him. "I feel it. There's a power to them," Batman says as he peers at the holy arrows and nods. "All right, let it come." Meanwhile, Harvey Dent has gone to see the doctor. The entire left side of his body has broken out into a hideous rash that he can't seem to stop scratching. "I would say that it's just poison ivy," the doctor says as he examines Dent. "Doctor, I haven't been out of the city in months," Harvey tells him, but the doctor weighs it off his stress, handing him ointment, telling him not to scratch or he'll get an infection. "Come back to me in a few days and I'm telling you, it's nothing," the doctor says as he heads to the door. But beneath the city, Ra's al Ghul knows that the key has been fitted into the lock, that the key is turning, that the door is opening. That night, Harvey sits on the sofa in his town home, mindlessly flipping his coin. The left side of his body has transformed into a lump of hideous flesh, tumors, tentacles, and growths sprouting out of his arm. "Kill me, please, whoever you are," he whispers as Talia slips into the room, but she tells him that his suffering serves a purpose and he has a little more to do. "Inside of you is the future history of mankind," she tells him gently. It's the next morning that Bruce stands in the Gotham cemetery, paying his respects to his parents' grave, but he's interrupted by James Gordon. "Are you going to arrest me for something, Jimmy?" Bruce asks, even though he's still wearing his Batman costume. Gordon shakes his head, not even bothering to pretend to know what is happening in his city, but he motions to his daughter, who wishes to speak to Bruce. "She talks to dead people," he whispers as he takes a puff of his cigar, as he leads him to Barbara, who is trapped in her wheelchair, speaking through a strange megaphone that is strapped to her chest. "The departed speak through me. I am their mouthpiece," she explains to Bruce, who exchanges pleasantries with her. She tilts her head, explaining that 2 spirits stand behind Bruce, one wrapped in bats, wishing to thank Bruce for taking on his burden. The other is a man in flames who claims that he will speak with Bruce in the courthouse tonight. "There you go, Bruce. Good luck with that," Gordon says with a nod as he turns, wheeling his daughter away. That night, Batman slips into the darkness of the courthouse, finding Barbara there. She calls out to the burning spirit, commanding it to speak through her. Flames erupt around the room, and Batman looks up to see the spirit of Professor Manford from Gotham University. 319 years alive, and only now, lost of flesh, am I free to speak. He tells Bruce that he came with a group of ambitious young men from England, that they arrived in Gotham when it was nothing more than a harborside fort that cut into the wilderness. He came with Bartley Langstrom, Henry Queen, and Thomas Wayne. They were determined to see Gotham prosper, and so teamed with a man named Ludwig Fryn. Fryn claimed to be a warlock and led them into the forest. Using strange magic, he opened up a portal into the deep earth. Beneath Gotham was an ancient city of reptile men that once laid claim to the earth, and it was there that Fryn used the Book of Ghoul. They took part in the ceremonies, making secret pacts with ancient powers. It was only afterwards that the four Englishmen realized what they had done. To hide their shame, they beat Fryn and left him in the ancient tomb, and they closed the portal, and time passed. Gotham began to thrive, and a city was built. The four of them began to gather power and riches, helping build their city. They married, they had children, and they outlived those children. But their immortality weighed on them, until Langstrom eventually took his own life. What about Fryn? Did he die down there? Bruce asks, but Manfred explains that Fryn survived, living off of fungi, drinking pools of foul water, and over time, he began to change, becoming something else. His body and mind were corrupted until he became the creature that serves Ra's al Ghul. Manfred explains that Henry Queen went insane and was the one who killed Thomas and Martha Wayne. The ghost I saw in the church was Barty Langstrom, Bruce says, realizing that the ghost of his father's friend was trying to warn him. Manfred tells Bruce that Oliver learned some of this information and believed that he was the one who would fight against the coming evil, spending most of his time learning how to hunt the most dangerous animals, hoping that it would prepare him. The spirit then begins to swirl, giving Bruce one last piece of warning before he disappears. The door is open between the worlds, but Ra's al Ghul is the one. Stop him before he calls the thing. He wails, the building beginning to rumble around them, the floor splitting down the middle, opening a great crevice into the sewers beneath Gotham. Bruce nods, taking up Oliver's longbow and arrows, which he had brought with him. All right, he says with a nod, preparing to jump down beneath the city, asking Barbara to wish him luck. There is no such thing. The dead watch over you. You are their avenger and the only hope for mankind, she says, and he pauses only briefly before leaping down, disappearing. He finds himself in an ancient city of lizardmen, his bow at the ready. He moves through the shadows, past the statues of pre-human civilization, and he can sense the thing coming. Fryn rushes him from behind, slamming him into the ground, slamming into him with his massive claws, knocking Bruce away. Wayne, time to pay, the monster growls, lifting him into the air. My father is already paid, and I am paying now. Bruce snaps, kicking off of the monster, pushing him away. Fryn stumbles back, slamming into the wall that gives way, collapsing on him. Batman sighs, picking up his bow. That was for all you ghosts. Now go wherever you go, I'll finish this alone, he says in the darkness. He continues to move forward, but a glint in the shadows gives him pause. He reaches for his flashlight, shining it into the hideous mess that was once Harvey Dent. Jesus, Harvey! He whispers, and the man looks at him, the massive growth that had once been on the left side of his body climbing up onto the wall, creating a form of gate. Hello, Bruce. How do I look? He asks. Batman shakes his head. Not good, Harvey. A tear falling from Harvey's eyes. You take care of yourself, Bruce, he whispers, flipping the coin, which Batman catches. Will do, Harvey. I'll see you soon, he says as he steps through the portal. Inside the dark realm that had once been Harvey Dent, Batman finds Ra's al Ghul and Talia standing upon a raised platform, chanting to their coming god. Batman steps forward and the two acolytes stand in his way. You guys really want to stop me? He asks, and they nod, their eyes beginning to glow as their bodies shift, becoming two werewolves that stand before him. Batman nods, notching his bow. All right then, he says as he lets loose, the holy arrows piercing the wolves' hides and burning them to cinders. He steps forward, readying the last arrow, but Ra's looks up, declaring him a fool. Look down below, he shouts, motioning to the darkness beneath them. The shape of who he is comes. Look down and go mad, he shouts. Bruce looks down, the shifting mass of the Dark One rolling beneath him, tentacles reaching up for the world, and he looks back at Ra's al Ghul unimpressed. I've seen it. For 20 years, every time I close my eyes, it holds no special terror for me now. He lets loose an arrow, but Roz throws up his book at the last moment, allowing the holy arrow to pierce the leather. It bursts into flames, forcing him to drop it. Damn you! My book is profane, but too late for you, too late for all who live, he shouts with glee, beginning to foam at the mouth, and Batman rushes forward, cracking him across the jaw. Not while I stand here, he snaps. Roz throws out his hands, sending out a stream of blue flames that engulfs Batman. The spell works through him, transforming Roz into a monstrous creature, and he continues to shout, exclaiming that his god is coming forth. When the flames die, it reveals that Batman still lives. Now a monstrous half-man, half-bat. Impossible! You live! Roz shouts, and Batman looks up. Human no more. I've shed that skin. Now finally I am what I am. He growls, and Roz grabs him by the throat, trying to strangle him. You are nothing before the power of Log Sotha! He shouts. True, but you are not Log Sotha. You are his pawn, and we are evenly matched, Bruce growls. Talia is nearby. She reaches for the book, hoping to tip the scales in the favor of her father, but the book burns her hands. She rears back, the Great One's tentacles coming over the side of the plateau, reaching out for her. She turns her face, seeing the small eyes looking at her. Roz bellows in rage as he knocks Bruce away, but Batman falls near Roz's book, picking it up, the fire burning him. But he whirls, burying the arrow that pierced through Roz's chest. Roz begins to squirm as the holy arrow burns his flesh, beginning to melt. He then falls to the floor. Ashes to ashes, Ra's al Ghul, now go back to hell! Batman turns as Talia screams, Log Sotha's tentacle pulling her elbow. Her eyes widen as the Great One rises up, a massive horde of flesh, eyes, and tentacles. The plateau shakes, tipping the jar that holds Etrigan, shattering it on the ground. Flames begin to fill the chamber. Here is Etrigan, free again! The demon bellows, turning to the bat creature. Bruce Wayne, you have done well, and it has cost you. But I promised you that you would see me in my glory if you lived. Look. He leaps at the great old foe, slamming into it with his fiery body, pushing it back into the darkness. Here is Etrigan, a piece of the wrath of the elder gods, left on earth to ward against thee. Now back to thy prison until the end of time! He shouts. The fire burns brightly, and Bruce is thrown clear of the portal, staggering to his feet, watching the flames consume the doorway that was once Harvey Dent. Is everything all right now, Bruce? Harvey gurgles, and Bruce nods his head. Look after my city, Harvey says before burning to nothing. The fire burning through the city, cutting away the darkness that had begun to fester within it. Then 6 months passed. Tim Drake standing before the press, telling them that he will be the acting head of the Wayne Foundation. The foundation will continue to fund the rebuilding of Gotham. The press takes photos asking where Bruce Wayne is. As you know, Bruce Wayne was injured in the fire and he has withdrawn from the public life, but he assures me that he will be watching over us all, and should Gotham need him, he will be there. From the shadowy window of the Wayne Manor, the creature that was once Bruce Wayne watches the people below. And God help you all, if you ever need me again, he growls softly. And there you have it, the doom that came to Gotham. I felt that it was a very fitting horror story for today. I hope you guys enjoyed it, and if you want more full stories, subscribe to the channel, as every Monday we're going to be bringing you full stories here at the Comicstorian channel. New ones or old ones, you'll get them all right here. Don't forget to go to our Patreon, patreon.com/Comicstorian, or sign up for YouTube memberships to get early access, and let me know in the comments down below what you thought about this story.